Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I am coming back at you with another wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we're going to continue on with my 15mm Ancients project update. Try to ignore these World War II figures on here. That's part of a commission that I'm working on, and that's not really part of this Ancient project update. These three models are, and these boards over here are, and that's really what I want to talk about. Okay, so there's quite a bit that I want to talk about. I don't have a script, but I'm going to just try to touch on all of them, and then we'll get this knocked out. Okay, so what you see on the table right now is 3 campsites. I'm trying to get these done maybe today or tomorrow so that I can continue filming my Meg boot camp. I don't need them, or I could use them like this, but I wanted to have them finished for the Meg boot camp. Plus I needed it for my armies anyway, right? This is my Roman campsite. Still in progress, but we've got the main tent, we got the Legionnaires tent, we got some supplies around here. We got somebody collecting supplies, somebody carrying. We have a fire here that hasn't been fully painted yet. A couple, like a guy carrying some firewood, and I don't know what she's got on that plate, and then this guy standing there. But basically, this is my Roman campsite. I have a Greek campsite as well. This is the Greek tent. We've got a little council right here. They're talking about what's going on. Somebody carrying supplies. We have one of the fire pit kits put together. This is the one with the pot hanging down over the fire. It's completely not finished, and yeah, I'm still working on that. And then my Germanic campsite. We got a German tent right there. We have another council. This one's a little bit larger. These guys are all Germanics. This guy's got a staff, and there's like another guy with like a sword on his hip and a sword at his feet. And then this guy's tending the fire, where you got a pig and then there's a boar. So there's a pig being roasted, and then a boar. Yeah, that's the Germanic campsite. Okay, so those guys are almost done. Not really. Maybe today or tomorrow. And then once I get these guys done, then I'm going to start doing or finishing up the Meg boot camp. Plus, I'm kind of recovered from the virus, and so maybe 95%, but I'm almost completely finished. Okay, so I've got a couple of boards over here that I'm working on. I just started them yesterday, cut them up, haven't really touched them since. But because I am focusing on Meg as going to be my Ancients rule set, I'm looking at the terrain for Meg, and you're looking at what are we looking at? We're looking at compulsory terrain and optional terrain. So based on the pre-battle system and how you now this is like a one-off, like you and your friend bring an army, you put it on the table, and you try to figure out where you want to place all the terrain and stuff like that. Now in a scenario or a pre-designed battle, you wouldn't really even use this, but because you would have terrain set up specifically for that battle. But I'm trying to think outside the box, where these pieces not only could be used for this game, but they can be used for other games as well, and also any scenarios that might come up. So I'm trying to kill multiple birds with only one stone. Okay, so in Meg, the compulsory troops or compulsory terrain is large. They're large chunks of terrain. And then the optional pieces are little pieces that just kind of are filler, that fill in gaps in the terrain. And that's only if you want them, and because somebody that functions in open terrain probably won't be doing any optionals, and those that love the rough, or you know, being able to hide in the woods or whatever, are probably going to use all the optional terrain that they're allowed. So it just depends. And now, uh, the compulsory terrain is, when you play Maximus, is supposed to be 10 base widths, or between a number and 10. I don't remember. I don't have it with me. But when you play Magna, which is what I plan to play, you reduce the size by a third. So if it's 10, it's supposed to be 6 2/3, right? 6.6. And but you round up to 7. So that is the maximum size that a compulsory can be. It can be smaller, not much smaller, but it can be smaller. And then the optionals are even smaller than that, 6, I think. And so what I've done was I've made a few boards for compulsory, and then I made a few boards for optional. And okay, let's just show you. So these are my optional boards. Okay, there's quite a few there. And you can see that I've written what it is, or what it will be, on it. So I basically, because I laid out a bunch of boards, and I said, okay, what do I need? Well, I need a lake, I need some woods, I need a forest, I need a mountain, I need a town, I need a village, I don't need a river, because I've already got rivers. So I thought about that. I said, do I need to make some rivers? I don't, because I've got flexible rivers. I can use those. I said, what else do I need? And so here's what I've decided that I was going to make. And you'll also notice that some of them are squared off and some of them are rounded off. And that was just a thought process that went through my head. If it's a field, like a plowed field or something like that, I squared it off. And then if it's like the lake or something like that, I rounded it off. You'll also notice that the edges of the boards are beveled, right? So I took my shop knife, my box knife, and I just whittled away, because it cuts pretty easily. Just got rid of it all. Made a big mess. A lot of little whittled pieces were on the ground. But the initial cut was done with a jigsaw. I went through and got my initial cuts. All right, so let's see what we got here. Well, first thing you'll see, and remember, these are the optional pieces in my hand right now. We've got the lake. All right, this is going to be a lake. Perfect. What I'm going to do is putty it, and then I'm going to put an edge around it, and I'm going to fill it with some water texture from Vallejo or AK. Marsh, right? Okay, I wasn't sure if I was going to do a marsh. I see that marsh is available for coastal, and Romans are coastal. So I said, why not? Somebody might want to put a marsh on the table or something like that. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to putty it, but I'm going to putty it where there's going to be some multiple watering holes, basically, and there might be an island in the middle or something. It's going to be kind of ups and downs. I'm going to put water along all of it, but it's going to settle down. There's going to be above and below the marshland, right? And then I think I might put some tufts and some foliage in there. Not necessarily any trees, right? It's just going to be like boggy terrain. Then there's going to be a patch of woods. Remember, this is all optional. Woods. Now, woods, woods and forest is interchangeable in my eyes, because all the difference is because it's just going to be flocked flat, right? Uh, I'm going to put trees on the base, and there's going to be more trees in a forest than there would be in woods. So I might put like 4 trees on here, 5 trees, and say that's a woods. Or I might just completely fill it up with trees, and then that'll be a forest. And we got a hill. Now, the hill, I'm planning on using a very low, or maybe I'll use the blue foam. Yeah, maybe I'll use the blue foam, which is really thick. It's like an inch, maybe 2 inches thick. It's pretty thick. And then I will use my wire cutter to round it off so it basically goes up and down, and then maybe put a ridge line in there. I want it to be very obvious, like where the ridge line is, because in the game, if you're uphill and closer to the ridge line than your opponent, you get the advantage of being uphill. So, but I want it to be fairly gentle and not mountainous, you know. Got a couple of those. And then these are more squared off. Now this is a field, right, where this is a crop. And then this is just brush. So brush is basically just going to be random, haphazard, like clump foliage and tufts, just making it kind of odds and ends, right? And then a field is pretty much going to be maybe a plowed field, maybe a crop. It's not going to be a crop field. And there's a difference between a crop and a field, and I'll explain. This is more of a plowed field or a flat field, but I'm going to plow it. I'm going to put lines of plaster, right? So it's going to have this corrugated look, and then I'll putty the whole thing, and I'll texture the whole thing. But then along the top of the bumps, I'll put a little flock on the tops, so you'll have rows of grass or whatever. And then I'm going to put a clump foliage border, not necessarily a hedge, but quite a bit of junk around the outer edge, just to make it look like a contained environment. There's a couple of different fields in the game. There's plowed fields, there's flat fields, and there is what's called a bordered field. And you're only allowed one border field per town or village, so it might or might not ever be used. And whether it's actually got a border or not isn't irrelevant, because we'll just nominate it and say that has a border. Now, I've considered not doing that and then just using separate hedges around the outer edge to say that it's a bordered field. And then, but I don't know, right? And then this one is a crop. Now, a crop is where the crop is still growing. It's ready to be harvested. So what I'm going to be doing is using my what do they call it? Banana grass doormat or whatever it is. And then I'm going to cut it into smaller chunks, like 2x2 base widths, and put them on the base. And then the reason why I'm going to set them, I'm not gluing them down or whatever. The reason why I'm setting them down is so that when troops move through, you can move and adjust and shift the crop so that the figures can lay flat and move as a formation or whatever. And if you have to, you can take a chunk and set it off to the side or stack them on top of each other or whatever, or just put it off the table, just so that. But when there's nobody in there or whatever, put all the crops in there, and it'll look like it's a crop of rye or whatever, ready to be harvested, or wheat or whatever. Okay, so now I've got my compulsory items over here, which is these giant boards. Right now, these boards are much thicker. They're 3 millimeters thick, but that's okay because they're so much larger. And because they're larger and thicker, it means that they'll not warp, or they'll stay firm. Okay, so the first one I did was a forest. Right now, again, remember, it's not truly a forest. It's just woods/forest because of the number of trees you put on there. And I made 2 large compulsory forest/woods. I made a couple of mountains. Okay, now mountains, what I'm planning on doing with those is I'm going to put 2 layers of foam, maybe the thin foam, maybe a thick and a thin. Basically, so that it'll be higher, right? I'm not going to make it one mountain peak. I think I'm going to make it with a saddle, like one large hill covering the entire board, and then 2 smaller hills on the board as well, or maybe a ridge line style on the smaller piece or whatever, and I'm going to cut it all with my foam cutter. But I don't know exactly how I want to do that, because a hill needs to have one ridge and not 2 hills in one. It'll look cool, but it'll be harder to game on. So maybe I will just do one large mountain hill, and that way and then there's a couple of them, so if you want to put them side by side, you can, or whatever. Actually, you can't, but they have to be, like, I think 2 base widths apart. But during the shift, you can move them together. And then I'm going to do a hill. Now, this is a giant compulsory hill. I'm going to do 2 of these. These are going to be giant compulsory hills, but they're still going to be a low hill. It's not going to be a mountain, which I'm going to make double size. And then there's going to be a village, which a village is going to be the Germanic. I'm going to have a couple of Germanic huts, if you will, and some animal pens, like a little trail going through it or whatever. But basically, it's going to be a hut with an animal pen, a hut with an animal pen, and I'm going to put like little cows and goats or whatever in those pens and then it'll be a village. It'll be basically just what would you call it? Rustic or rural. But on the flip side, I am going to make a Roman town. Now I've got these 5 Roman buildings coming in from Forged in Battle, and I'm going to put them kind of in a nice orderly, like I might make a T intersection of a road, and I'm going to put the buildings in such a way that they look like it's got city planning, right? It's going to be straight, but in the back I might, or like in their yards, if you will, I might do a little hedge work or something like that. Maybe a garden or 2 or something like that. I want it to look a little bit more developed. And then again, we're going to do another field, either bordered or not. And then finally, I've got an orchard and a vineyard. Now the orchard is going to be a lot. Whoa, come on, focus. The orchard is going to be a lot like the woods, in that it's going to be rows of trees. That's going to how I'm going to identify the orchard, really. And then the vineyard, I think I'm going to need to make some. I mean, I used to have these. I used to have a long time ago. I made a vineyard using balsa wood, right? I took some bases, and then I had some little frames sticking up, some balsa wood pieces, and then I took thread and I tied them from stick to stick, in layers, like made a fencing basically of sticks and thread, and then I took glue and I flocked some of the sticks, or I also took some thread and hung it down to the ground and flocked the thread, and it looked like there were vines growing in a vineyard, like for olives or grapes or whatever. And then that's the vineyard. That's going to be that one right there would be probably the hardest one to do, is the vineyard. But again, the vineyard is not going to be fixed to the base. And the reason why I'm doing that is so that when troops move through, you can move the terrain pieces around. So you don't have to struggle, putting the figures where you want them. A lot of people just do flat and just say it's a vineyard. Well, I want three-dimensional, but it means I'm going to have to make it on their own little individual bases that can be moved around so that troops can go through. Same thing with the trees and all that. So I got to plan ahead. Okay. So working on these, working on those. I did get my Old Glory order in from Old Glory. I got my elephants for Macedonia. I got 4 of them. And I got some archers and some not Germanics. They're Celtic, really. No, they're not even Celtic. They're Gaelic. I got some Gaelic troops, and I got some archers for my Marian Romans. I have slingers, and I also have old Velite javelin men from the mid-Republicans, and I can pull those out and use them for my late Republicans. That would be no problem. So I've already got slingers and javelin men. I just didn't have any archers. So we got some archers in. We got some Gaelic troops, which the only reason why I needed to get Gaelic troops was if I go up against my Germans, I won't be able to pull German figures and say they're my Gaelics, because that's what I could do normally right now. If I play my Romans, I could just pull some Germans and say those are my, auxiliaries or whatever. But if I play against my Germans, then I wouldn't be able to do that. So I needed to get a couple of German figures, or Gaelic troops. So I got some Gaelic. I have cavalry already. I've got some Numidian cavalry. Both of those, well, I've had Numidian cavalry in the bag from Old Glory already, but when I looked at the Cromarty Numidian cavalry, I really liked them, so I'll probably use them instead. And then maybe, I don't know yet, but I think I will. And the German heavy cav from Cromarty, I really like them too, so I think I'm going to be using those. But I got enough. I had some Blue Moon, a couple of bags of Blue Moon, and I also had like 6 bags of Old Glory Marian Roman Legionnaires. So it came out to like a bunch of Roman Legionaries, and the command figures that I have. I don't have enough to do enough legions, but no. Let me back up and reiterate. If I did one command set per legion in Maximus, I would have enough, because I have more than, because all I need is 15 or 16. 88. Yeah, I only need like 88 bases in Maximus. And with a legion being 8 or 4 or 6 in Maximus, all you really need is 11 if you want to do 8 base legions, right? But I plan to do Magna, as I already said. And with Magna, it is 60 bases. And they are 4 base legions. So you can have 15 or 16, 15 legions. And I don't have 15 command sets. I have enough to do Maximus, but not enough to do Magna, which is weird, right? You're supposed to have 2/3 as many, but the way the legions break down, you need more command. Now, what I was planning on doing was making making a Magna army, right? Not Magna, Maximus army, and then only using, because there are 8 base legions, and then using 4 of the bases for my Magna. So I just pull 4 with the command, 4, 4, 4, but then it would only be 11, right? And I need 15 or 16. I say 15 or 16 because I can't remember, because the 10th Legion is in addition to your normal base count. It's 56, and then the 10th Legion is 4 more. That's why I say 60. Okay, so back up. Okay, so I went to, I laid all my figures out, and with the Old Glory figures, I could do a lot of legions. I figured it out. I could do a bunch of legions with the 6 bags of Old Glory, plus the command figures. Now, what I was trying to do was put a command stand in every 4 bases. That way, when I play Magna, every legion will have a command stand. It's totally unnecessary. Plus, but it'll just look better. Plus, the way the decals work out, I only have 9 legions in Maximus, or maybe 10. Maybe I have exactly the right number of, but I have 9 new decal sheets. And I don't need all of the decals from each sheet, because it comes with 30. And again, remember, I only need 28. And then if there's a standard and a musician, they're probably not using those decals. So there's probably 4 per decal sheet that I'm not using. But that would be a stand, right? But if I use those, then the 10th Legion, because there would be 9 of them, right? No, yeah, 9. The 10th Legion, not the actual 10th Legion, but just the 10th that I make, would be a mix match of all different kinds of decals, which not a problem. I'm anal and I don't like to do that. So I might just take a Legion and just paint it according, just give it a solid shield without any decals or any symbols on it, or I could just draw like little circles or something on there, because there are a lot of different Roman shield designs, and I'm sure I can paint one on. Okay, so my let me back up a little bit and kind of explain why I'm even kind of ranting about this. I decided to go crib or crunch or steal from my Cromartie Republicans. I went in there and found some of the command stands and clipped off some standard bearers, some musicians, some officers to use because I needed them because I didn't have enough. So I clipped them to use, and then and once I put them all together, remember, I'm only doing Magna. I'm not doing the Maximus. So I have a lot of extra figures left over waiting to go Maximus, right? But I decided that I wasn't going to use the Blue Moon figures, right? So I kind of, because they have, but I don't know, I might, because it'll give my legions a little bit of variety if I make one of them. Okay, I'm ranting, I'm rambling. I was going to, and this is my initial thought process, which has changed, but my initial thought process was take all the figures, mix them up, and randomize, right? Have some swordsmen, have some pylons advancing, some pylons throwing, some swordsmen acting a fool, and mix and matching them throughout all my legions. And that way, every legion will have like a variety of figures. And I thought that was a good idea. But then it kind of dawned on me, because looking at these figures, the shield sizes are a little bit different, and the models are slightly different look to them. I think I want to keep all the Blue Moon in their own units, and I want to keep the Old Glory in their own units. And then I saw the Cromartie, some of the officers have shields, but those shields have designs on them, right? So I can't apply a decal to them. So I don't know if I would like that. I don't know if I like the fact that this shield is not matching with the decal. Now, looking back on it, the Cromartie does have a bunch of shields you can buy separately that have a variety of different patterns on them. So you can mix and match or I could maybe find some that match my decals, and then I'll just have to paint them on the little embossed logo that's on the shield. But I was thinking, I don't necessarily want to do that. I want them to look good. I don't want them to look jank, or I don't. First of all, they do look really good. It's just the shields. Now I've considered going in and scraping the design off the shield, and then that way I could apply a decal. But those shields are a little bit smaller, I've noticed, as per the Old Glory shields. They don't look like they're the same size. Now the Blue Moon decal, the Blue Moon shields are big, and and those shields are separate. So maybe I haven't thought about this until just now. Maybe I could take a Blue Moon shield and glue it onto a Cromartie figure. That way I can apply a decal to it. I think I might do that. Okay, so I think I've solved my issue. But I'm not sure. I don't know. But primarily, I'm going to keep the units by brand. So Old Glory primarily with Old Glory, Blue Moon with Blue Moon, And then having said all that, I've got some Forged in Battle Romans. I got 2 packs, one with swords, one with pylons, I think. I'm trying to remember. Uh, Forged in Battle does really good, but I'm not sure how big their shields are. When they come in, I'll double check. But those come with 24 figures. And if you know, as you already know, a Maximus unit is 28, but my Magna is only 14, 14 figures, right? So with those 2 packs, 28 or 24 plus 24, right? It's like 48. I might be able to do. I could easily do 3 units of 14, right? I wouldn't be able to do 4 units because I'd be short a few figures, but 36, right? No, 30, 42. So it would be 42 figures for 3 units, right? 14, 14, and 14, right? So 42 figures, the answer to the universe, um, out of 48. So I'd have 6 extra figures that I could put in some other unit, right? But I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to take my Forged in Battle, make 3 units, 3 small units, right? And then my Old Glory, and make a bunch of small units. But I'm going to have a bunch of extra figures laying around. But those are going to be ready or available for me. I'm not going to do anything with them. I'm just going to put them in a bag somewhere. But they're going to be available for when I want to expand, right? And go to my Maximus. Because I do want to do Maximus armies. Now, I considered this. This is another thing I've considered. If I did a Maximus army of Romans, right? Or I should say, when I do a Maximus army of Romans, and I've got 80 bases or 88 bases of Romans ready to go, I could cut it in half and play a civil war. You know, the Romans versus Romans, because didn't Caesar take on Pompey? They fought after he crossed the Rubicon or something like that. So, or was there a civil war or whatever? But either way, I think that would be pretty cool to do as well. Roman versus Roman, that's pretty much nobody has the advantage. It's all tactics. But that's going to have to wait because I'm going to do my Marians up to Magna. See, I thought about doing a bunch of armies at Pacto level, but Pacto changes everything. Everything's like super small, which means I'd be able to make legions out the wazoo super fast. But the terrain is like super small. It's tiny, right? And then the measurements are all halved, right? So a base width is not well, your figure bases are still 40 millimeters, just like normal, but the measurements are all 20 millimeter. So it's half base widths count as base widths. So, and you play on a much smaller table, much smaller pieces of terrain. So I would need a whole nother set of terrain that I'm not going to do, right? So Magna, the way I'm doing it, the Magna pieces could still be used in Maximus because I'm making them pretty much maximum of the Magna. So I'm making them as big as I can so that even if we played Maximus, they would still fall within the range of acceptable terrain piece sizes. Okay, so I'm not starting those figures, those Marions. I pretty much have already washed them and organized them into little baggies. I'm gonna have to go back and redo that because of my thought process changed. I'm not gonna have a total mix. I'm gonna pick and choose what I'm gonna do. Um, the reason one another thing, I wanted to do them all at once, like do my Maximus army all at once. But I can't do that. I mean, the reason why I wanted to do that was I find that different when I paint. If I paint a figure today and then I paint a figure tomorrow, they won't look the same. There's always going to be a subtle something different. Either the shade of the primer or the wash or something causes it to be a little bit different, right? Maybe I don't like the red I'm using. Maybe I'm going to use another red, or maybe I don't like the green and I use a different green or something. And so if I do it all at the same time, then they'll all look the same. They'll all look good. But I'm actually not concerned with that because I want my legions to look different. So it's okay if I paint them magna and then add legions later, because or add bases later because then it'll look a little different and that's good. Okay, so I also ordered a piece of rubber. It's really it's a floor mat. It's something you're supposed to lay down on your carpet or on your hardwood floor or whatever so that you don't slide around. But basically, it's like a 2 millimeter piece of rubber. I ordered that because I wanted to make a river, but not a river, a coastline that is one piece. This thing is 2 foot by 4 foot. I do believe is what I ordered. Maybe I ordered 3 by 6 or something. I don't remember exactly what I ordered, but basically I ordered it just so that I could get a 4 base width, which is pretty big if you think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just over 6 inches. I'm probably not going to make it a full 6 inches. I'm probably going to make it more like 5 with and then curve it. So at some places it might be 6, at others it might be 4, but pretty much just is what the inland side of this rubber will be. And then the coast side of the rubber will be perfectly straight because it's going to be pushed up against the edge of the table. Um, I considered making it 4 feet, right, to lay across my table, uh, which is no problem. It'll lay perfectly flat across this table. The reason why I want to do that is because there's a lot of terrain situations in Meg where one side or the other is called uh, not difficult terrain, but it's an obstacle, right? So you can't get outflanked on that side. Nobody can come enter or cross that table edge. Um, Now you could just say, hey, that table edge over there has a river or a coast or something, but you're supposed to lay something down that extends into the, oh yeah, wait a second. Yeah, I did it right. Are supposed to extend into the table a number of base widths and or a maximum number of base widths. Um, and so by making it one piece of rubber, I can just lay this piece down and it'll be easy, right? And then when I'm done, I can just roll it up or I can lay it flat on one of my shelves or whatever. It's not, it'll be easy. It's going to be fairly thick, is my understanding, but I'm going to bevel the inland side. I'm also going to grass the inland side, right? Flock, and then the and then I'm going to make like a plaster coastline, and then I'm going to gradually like plaster it down to the sea, and then I'll maybe put some sandy beach material down, and then blue water feature on there with maybe waves or something. But basically, it's going to be the ocean or the Adriatic Sea or whatever. It's going to be a coast. Uh, Now, I could just lay a river down and say that's the coast, but then I wanted to do something special, so I ordered a piece of rubber. Now, because it's like bigger than just 4 inches by 4 feet, I'll have a bunch of extra rubber that I don't know what I'm going to do with. I can make other pieces of terrain. I could have done those in rubber, um, but it also might be too thick. It might not lay flat. It might be. It might not work on the table. So when I get it was cheap. So, but when I get it in, like $10, when I get it in, if it's not going to work, then I'll use it as a floor mat, like it's supposed to be. um, okay, I think that's it. And I'm getting something in tomorrow. I might be getting that rubber in tomorrow, but I think I'm getting in. Oh yeah, yeah. This is totally opposite off topic, but I'm getting in another one of these carpet chair mats. I've got this hard plastic uh, floor mat for under my office chair, so that so I can roll it around on the carpet. But it's old. It's used. My wife got it at like Goodwill or some kind of bargain thing, thrift store or something. And it already had cracks. Now it's cracked so much that it's starting to have holes in it. Like it'll crack this way, it'll crack this way, it cracks this way, and now you got a little triangle, pop it out, and you got. So when I roll, sometimes my wheels catch on these holes, and it was free, but I went ahead and ordered another one, and we'll see if it's any better. It's weird because they say they come rolled up. If I rolled this thing up, it'd be impossible. There's no way I could roll this thing up. It's almost like glass. It's like super stiff. But what they say is heat it up, unroll it, lay it down, put weights on it, and let it sit for 72 hours or something like that before you put it to use. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of prep work for one of these rolling mats, but okay. Okay, I guess that's it. Thanks for coming out and checking out this 15 millimeter Ancients project update, and look forward to me doing my Marian Romans later once I get some of these other commissions done. Once I get, P.S., once I get these camps done, then we'll finish the Meg project update as well. Not project update, the Meg boot camp, which is kind of like my rules tutorial. And there's a lot of things I've learned about Meg since I made that tutorial. So at the end, I think I might make not an errata, but more like maybe an errata, but like one of the final videos, I might like things I've learned or clarifications or something like that at the end. All right, guys, I will catch you in the next video.